Serious, be honest, would you date a person who is partially sighted/blind? If not, why? I married such a person. It's a bit of a problem with cleaning and transportation. But that doesn't make her any less of a woman. Are blind women that much harder to clean? Not sure. But she'd probably be annoyed with a guy that's dirty and a bad driver. I dated a partially sighted girl in college for a while. She was far beyond legally blind. She could barely see at all. I remember her glasses looked like little telescopes. And she wasn't allowed to get a driver's license at all. Wonderful girl. We had a lot of fun. It didn't work out. But that was nothing to do with her eyesight. Certainly, I'm one. Myself. Is this a joke? Why would it be a joke? Yeah. It's not like they become my responsibility and it replace their guide dog. They're an adult. So am I. Great. Exactly. Most blind people aren't looking for caretakers. And most who are relationship ready are very comfortable explaining where they may or may not need help. And how someone can best help. I see what you did there. Of course. I wouldn't consider it a problem at all. I would consider my own capability to adjust to that, and whether or not I was capable of not being a hindrance to them if I couldn't. But generally, I would be open to it. It's about personality in the end, and being blind doesn't really change that. Rather the opposite. I presume blind people are a lot more observant of things that are within a non-visible area of perceiving other people. Might actually be a plus. Oh, man. I hate to burst your bubble. But we are literally just as human as everyone else. Some of us are less observant. Some of us are more. Some of us are racists. Even. Well, some of us are not. Blind people can be just as judgy. Just as giving. Just as human as everyone else. In basically every way you could think of. Aside from our ability to experience aspects of the world visually. I always get a little uncomfortable when people say stuff like this. Or claim that blind people can't be bigoted. Or that we have extra special senses of some kind. Wish I could give you an award for this. Drives me crazy when people go on about the virtues and other gifts of the disabled. If we are good people, or talented in some regard, it's by our own merit and luck. Just like everyone else. It has nothing to do with the conditions we were born with or developed later in life. Goodness isn't forced on us by disability. We choose it and work for it. Just like everyone else. It depends on how their blindness impacts them. I like a lot of physical activities, hiking, skiing, tennis, long walks, and wouldn't want to date someone who doesn't have similar interests as me. If vision problems don't get in the way of that, then sure. If I like her, I like her. Doesn't matter if she is different. I will only set my sight on her. Yeah, they didn't lose their personality. Sure, why wouldn't I? I don't care one way or the other. If we date and hit it off, awesome. If not, it won't be because of something out of their control like eyesight. Sure, it's a hindrance and I'd have to get used to helping them in ways I'm not used to helping other people. But at the end of the day, if I truly like them then I'd get used to it. I'm ugly. I don't see any downsides with someone not having any clue what I look like. Mayo. Jokes aside, I'm honestly not sure. I'd like to think that I'd want to share at least one hobby with a partner. And if he had a severe vision impairment, I don't know if and what we'd be able to enjoy and experience together. But again, not sure because I've never really thought about it. Maybe wouldn't care at all if the opportunity presented itself. Who knows? My husband is legally blind without his glasses. So I would say that's a yes. There's a girl I used to like who is blind. So I was open to it. But after knowing her 4 years through school, I found that our interests just didn't complement each other, and she probably wasn't all that interested in me. Honestly, it would depend on the person. If I like them enough then yes, but it would be a tougher sell than a person without that handicap. Why? Well, the obvious drawbacks of not being able to share visual experiences. Can't exactly go stargazing together, can we? And I like astronomy, and them inevitably needing a little more help at least once in a while, if not fairly frequently. It's one thing to do that for a friend, but for someone I might eventually live with, I just wouldn't be willing to put up with the inconvenience, unless I really liked the person in question. It's not a nice thing to admit, but it's nonetheless true. I can't even think why not have a partially sighted friend. We were both in relationships when we met, but it never seemed a hindrance to be around them. I guess you mean because it's a little more complicated to plan trips and stuff. I have a harder time planning for my friends with severe allergies. Back when we could travel/eat out. Seriously drawing a blank why this is a question and I feel so stupid. It's an odd question for sure. It would be a lot harder to find yourself in a situation where you could possibly date someone who happens to be partially sighted or blind, but of course, personally, I wouldn't mind. I'm not a super active individual and the only real exercise I do is walking or hiking, which I think most blind people usually don't struggle too much to partake in. Anything else I do that would be outside of their comfort zone isn't important enough for me to absolutely need it. I think I'd actually feel pretty lucky to date someone who I know isn't dating me for just aesthetic purposes. Run into that a lot, unfortunately. Daredevil's blind, isn't he? But yet every second he's out of the mask you've got a girl leeching onto him. He's also, and I'm sorry if this bursts your bubble, a fictional character. Well, despite the being blind thing, in many versions he can still see. Just like how LaForge from Star Trek is blind, but can also still see. So using Daredevil as an example doesn't quite cover being blind. I probably wouldn't, especially if talking blind. Partially because I'd like to have someone to share experiences where that might be a problem, and I'm pretty sure I'm not quite cut out to be an adequate support for someone like that. I don't think I'm thoughtful enough to be a good enough partner to someone who is blind. I don't think dating a blind person would make you thoughtful. A self-sufficient and independent blind person doesn't require as much assistance as you might think. I mean, Helen Keller was deaf and blind in the 19th/20th century and she basically managed amazingly for a time where blind/deaf people were hardly accommodated for. In 2020 there is so much out there to give a blind person a pretty normal life. They just need to know how to work around it. And chances are, if they're born blind or turned blind at a young age, they'll know exactly how to get by like a regular person. I know this because my cousin works for an organization for visually impaired people and tells me exactly how regular sighted people always misinterpret the effects of blindness. I absolutely didn't mean to imply that they would need my help in any way. When I said about being thoughtful, it wasn't in terms of providing assistance. I meant more like being thoughtful in the way of making adjustments. I think I'm sometimes quite set in my ways and find change difficult to make. It doesn't come naturally to me. I have no objections to dating someone who is blind. Well, apart from the fact I'm happily married. But I just don't think it'd be a very good partner. Who knows? Maybe I would be. I'm going to be honest and say no. While yes, people adapt to their disabilities, but they would not be able to do activities that I enjoy and partake, meaning we wouldn't have that much in common. So it would not work out. The disability itself would not be a problem, it's just that disability prevents for common interests, and not having common interests and activities in relationship is a deal breaker for me. My mother is legally blind. It's tough on both my parents, and my dad does have to put in effort to help her with things like reading. But all in all, they have a great marriage and I've never seen them fight. They're what I hope for in a relationship. They're genuinely friends. I'd date a partially sighted or blind person without a thought. They're just people. I would, because a lot of blind people knows how to take care of themselves already, as long as they have the right tools for it. And if they need help with something, from my part that is, it'll do it, no problem. As long as it's something I know myself how to do. Yes, because me being funny would actually work. My wife is legally blind, so yes. I would not, only because someone not being able to drive is a deal breaker for me. If she checked every other box for me, you bet I would. Well, forget about a movie. Why? Just need to find a theater that offers AD devices and get used to hearing it in your own home. Correctable? Yes. Legitimately blind? I'm not sure. I'm pretty introverted. I joke about having a goal to speak 100 words or less a day. I use a lot of facial expressions, gestures, that kind of thing. and when I do speak I use my hands. 2. I don't know how well communication would work. The whole thing may just be untenable. I've never had any real interaction with the blind before. I would, because I think a lot of people who are blind etc. still just as good as normal people. Side question. Would you date someone with a spinal cord injury / needs a wheelchair? Share. Not sure really. On the one hand, she can't see how ugly I am. On the other, we would probably butt heads trying to hug or kiss. Honestly, yes, I would. I know things would be difficult and different, but if I have genuine affection for them, and that feeling is mutual, and we are both happy, then yes, I would date someone that would be blind. I don't know, I wouldn't let her do things like drive a car or something. That's probably best if you have good vision, but other than that, slight annoyances may occur. Other than that, should be fine. Most people here is either lying or naive as fuck. If your partner can't see, there are a lot of things you can't do, such as basically everything except for talk to each other. You'd have to take care of them 24/7. And if you want children, that would be incredibly difficult to take care of everyone. Not wanting to date a blind person doesn't mean you hate them. You could be their friends. However, very few people would be able to actually be their life partner. You must be the stupidest person to ever exist. Seriously, I have never heard such dumb words in my entire life. A blind person still has the ability to do things and can be completely independent. My brother is blind and has married to a fully sighted woman, has a fully sighted daughter and a perfectly stable career at a law firm. Blindness, in the majority of cases, is not the total absence of vision, as many can still see light and they have what's called perception. Blind people can still have sex, walk, go places. Hell, my brother travels wherever he wants to go day and night alone. Stevie Wonder, who can see anything, is one of the greatest musicians and can play instruments and sing better than you ever could. You seem to forget that they can be self-sufficient adults and don't need round-the-clock care like someone with a more severe inheritable disease like muscular dystrophy. They can do almost anything besides drive a car. With assistive technologies and travel equipment, they could live life just like anyone else, but with extra things in place. And they don't need to always rely on others. The least you'd have to do is point out certain things and describe things to them. You are clearly ignorant and don't know enough about blind people to know that they can do many things. If you don't want to date one, cool. But the claims that you made are complete and utter bullshit and show lack of education on the topic. I would just to see what would happen. I doubt it'll actually be a good date, but I don't see any harm in trying. And no, that's not a pun bot. No, because I'm so picky I wouldn't date me. Yeah, I think it would be difficult at first, because it's not something I'm accustomed to, but if we both have similar interests and or they're willing to try them with me, then I don't see why not. I'd love to teach a blind person to do something they haven't done before, because they were incapable of doing it by themselves. Plus, I think it would be cute if they ask me to describe and stumble while doing so, something they have not seen before. The ability to see isn't the only thing that determines for me if I would want to date a person. If we click well overall and they happen to be blind, why should I let that stop me from dating them? On the one hand, I don't see the blindness as a problem whatsoever. I'd treat him or her the same way I'd treat someone that wasn't blind. On the other hand, I'd have to be the one that gets a job. There are lots of blind people in jobs. I've met tons that live a relatively normal and independent life. A lot of blind people are unemployed because their lack of vision causes them to feel like their potential is lessened, and so the mental hindrance leads them to not seek jobs out, which is very understandable. Fair enough. I just don't like the idea of getting a job. I'm only 17 and I already feel like I've lived too long. Now I just wanna have a nice quiet death and let that be the end of it. So I'm just sorta waiting for that to happen. I would date someone with special needs. I don't see with my eyes no more, I see with my heart. When it comes to matters of the heart, I met a lot of cute girls that are deaf and I don't know how to talk with my hands. But we never had problems with communication and they all were engaged to someone else, and that is why I never made a move. Thank you for watching. We hope you enjoyed this video. Please subscribe for more videos.